Hello everyone, welcome to Tubby Time. My name is Josh, and this is Kayla. What are we making?
Chicken pot pie.
Chicken pot pie. And before we begin the ingredients, we also want to say our thoughts and prayers are with the people that are affected by this pandemic in our country and throughout the world right now. We hope we can bring some sort of joy to anyone who's stuck in their homes, which is hopefully most of you during this time. And we want to show you some recipes, and this is what we've been doing to sort of cope with not being able to have a social life. We hope to bring you some sort of entertainment value, and yeah, that's it. So let's take a quick look through the ingredients, like I said, and we will get right to it. Okay, first thing we're going to do, chicken bouillon cubes, however you pronounce it. One of these bad boys is equal to, well, if you mix it with a cup of water, it's equal to 1 cup of chicken broth. So instead of going out and buying a big thing of chicken broth or beef broth like we did last week, if you just get a box of these, there's a ton in there. So it's not like you really have to worry about them going bad. Salt, pepper. Gonna need some flour. Not this much. We're going to measure it out. We are going to use an onion, 1 whole onion, stick of butter. We're going to soften that. We are going to use, once again, our good friend frozen vegetables. These things are great. And we are using the mixed vegetables, which include peas, corn, carrots, and green beans. We're going to be using some heavy whipping cream. Actually, we need heavy cream, but they had heavy whipping cream. We are also going to be using some boneless chicken breast. You might be asking why this looks the way it does. But the boneless breasts, we used some of this last week for another recipe, so I just needed 1 breast. This is probably about 2 pounds. And last but not least, we are going to be using Kayla's famous pie crust. Now, we have it in this little pie thing. Pie dish. We have it in this little pie dish because we already made a video on this. You can check that out. We'll link the video in the description and on here. But this is the finished pie crust. You can go out and buy one. It's just not as good, but we made it from scratch. So be sure to check out that video if you want to have a good pie crust. If not, go buy one at the store. And we only use a top crust. We do not use a bottom crust because the bottom crust gets soggy. It's just not really a fun time. So that's it. All right, going over the tools we'll need for this recipe. The first thing, believe it or not, is a pie tin. We have just our standard size white ceramic pie tin. It serves us great for all of our pie making needs. Next, a medium skillet, 10 or 12 inches, no less than 10. We're going to be using our stainless steel skillet for this. And last but not least, a medium pot. Why would you need a medium pot? Well, I'm going to show you because we're going to start the recipe by filling this pot about 3/4 of the way with some water, throwing it on the stove, and letting it come to temp. While doing that, seasoning our chicken on all sides with salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. And dropping our chicken into the water? That's right, we're going to be poaching our chicken. Poaching the chicken keeps it full of flavor and moist, which makes it easier to pull apart later on. So we're just going to rest that in there, keeping an eye on it. As it begins to cook, you're going to have a white film that builds. You can just leave that and stir it around a bit. Keep an eye on it. It's going to cook for about 20 minutes, and if it boils over, just turn it down. It can simmer. That's completely fine. Next, we're going to throw in our stick of butter on our skillet, keeping it on a medium-low heat, and then we're going to chop up our onion while that's melting. We're just going to mince it up pretty fine, peeling it, and I like to do 2 cross sections when I mince my onion. It just keeps it a little thinner of a cut and easier to cook. So once that's all cut up, we are going to transfer it to our skillet, making sure that the butter is completely melted. If not, just give it a stir. And we're going to let that cook down. Now remember, good things take time, and we're just going to make sure that we coat our onion completely with butter and let it do its thing while we finish the rest of the recipe. We're going to take a look at our chicken, and it looks about done, but always verify that with a meat thermometer, making sure a temp of 165 degrees Fahrenheit is accomplished. Transfer that to a bowl. And don't throw that water out because we're going to save it to have with dinner. That's right, that water is delicious to have as a drink with dinner. It's full of flavor. I'm just kidding. Throw most of it out, but keep a cup. We're going to take that cup and we're going to put it back on the stove on high, throw in our boiling cube, and let it come to a boil. While waiting for that, season our onions with salt, pepper, and add 2 tablespoons of flour. We're going to mix that up to thicken that up a little bit. And once our water is boiling, we're going to stir it up to make sure the boiling cube's dissolved and throw it in with our onions. Give it a nice stir, make sure it thickens, and most of the water will probably boil out. But we're looking for that kind of consistency right there. Next, when that's done, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of heavy whipping cream or heavy cream, whatever you have. And this is going to be our filling for the pie. So we're going to let that cook down until it really thickens up. You're looking for like a pukey, non-appetizing consistency like so. It looks pretty gross, but it tastes delicious, trust me. Throw on your oven to 425 as you go and start screwing around with your chicken. Cut it up into pieces that are a little bit easier to work with, as it's going to still be pretty hot. And once that's cut up, get your hands in there and start pulling it apart. Make sure you don't wash your hands beforehand, because you want all those flavors from your hands in the chicken. Very important. Once your chicken's pulled up and all nice and in pieces, throw it into your pie tin. And hold on, no, because we use that as a top crust. So we don't have a bottom crust. Throw it into your pie tin without a crust on the bottom in this particular case. Spread the chicken out so it's nice and spread out and looks like that. And then take your entire frozen bag of vegetables and place it on top. It looks like a little much, and as we spread it out, we're going to figure out it is. So once you figure out you have no room for the filling, you're going to argue with your significant other for a few minutes about why the recipe isn't working out as you expected, and you're going to storm off with a beer and let her take over.
Once your significant other leaves the room, you can take half of the chicken and vegetables and put it in a separate baggie, which we had on the side. And then it gives you more room to add the cream filling. So you pour that in, eyeball it, start mixing it around, flatten it out. It looks like there's a big gap between the top of the pie tin to where the actual filling is, so you can add some more of that cream filling and mix it around again. Get all the chicken and vegetables incorporated with that cream. And you should have about 1/4 of an inch from the top of the filling to the top of the pie tin. So that looks about good. And then you are ready to put the crust on top. And you want to carefully cut around the edges, just so the crust is laying over the edge of the pie tin. Make sure not to rip it. And then you just want to kind of press it against the filling and the edge of the pie tin. Make a nice seal, and then you can get some tin foil and cut that up and wrap that just around the edges of the pie tin, around the edges of the crust. This allows for the crust to not get burned on the edges. And you want to cut in some holes or slits just to allow some of the steam and heat to come out of the pie. I try to make it look a little pretty. Then you can put it in the oven for about 45 minutes. Okay, so time's up. Taking a look. Looks really good. That pie crust looks good. A little dark in areas, but not bad.
All right, so we are back with the finished product. We're going to go in and we're going to cut into this and see how it looks. Oh, it's still frozen. No, I'm just kidding. Crust has a very good sound to it.
Crispy.
And like we said, we didn't use a bottom crust, so we'll see how this
It'll be all gooey.
looks. All right. So one thing we haven't mentioned yet is this is Kayla's mom's recipe. So this is what she does. We were a little off with the amounts, but how is it?
Good.
Would you eat it every day?
No.
No.
But my puff pastry crust is really good.
Oh. It's a little hot, but that boiled chicken is just so good. I just want to get another bite of these vegetables here. That creamy, whatever you call it, filling. Very good. we're going to go be fat again. That concludes another episode of Tubby Time. Be sure to check back for updates, subscribe, hit the notification button, and comment on anything you want us to make, because we're not professionals. We're just here bored. So let us know. Thanks for watching. Take care.